Greetings, fellow smart people. Today, this is episode 244 of the Brain Software Podcast, coming at you from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. Today, Mike Mandel and I will explore hypnosis and guided imagery. So let's get started.
Disclaimer. We know that many of you have concerns about what constitutes humor in our podcast, but that's okay. We are here for you anyway. And as Uncle Bud loved to say, Lucci.
Yeah, how are you tonight and all that? This is a place to be if you want to learn cool stuff. But what in hell's acres ever happened to that old tranquility we used to know and that?
These are days of witches. I don't even know what that means. But let's welcome to the hypnotic jujitsu mat, a man who loves opera.
More than Ness and Dorma.
Everyone's favorite high school dropout.
Admit it.
Because he's the Keith Richards of hypnosis.
That is a wonderful thing.
Mike Mandel.
Chris, I'm so up for this. We are bordering on it being Christmas soon.
It is.
This is Friday.
December 15th as we record.
So we're getting close, and I'm Christmas boy. I said I was out with Paul Pacific the other day.
Yes,
we
your
had the
Mendelism
best
friend.
time.
Yeah.
We walked all through Toronto and just had an absolute blast. And keep Paul Pacific in mind because he's going to be featured in something coming up in the new year.
Did he teach you some cool new Mendelism
Oh, buddy,
stuff?
I'm going to show you one over lunchtime. Yeah,
You've
great guy.
shown me some of the things he's taught you, and they're
He's
fantastic.
brilliant. He's brilliant. He's a great
I can't
guy,
wait to
too.
meet him. All right, let's jump in.
I want to talk about free spotting first.
And then we're going to do our 3 words.
Yeah, then we'll do our 3 words. Free spotting. Now, you know, I endeavor to stay, it used to happen all the tech stuff. I stay up on a lot of therapeutic things, and that's how I added to my vocabulary of therapy, things like clean language and timeline therapy, and got to be able to do all these, either got certified or trained in, and of course, mirroring hands, our friend Richard Hill, soon to be Dr. Richard Hill, all of these things. Well, I saw something came across my desk. It was one of our students in MMHA sent me this link to free spotting. At first, I thought it was free basing, which is like a totally
different thing.
Totally different thing that we know nothing whatever about. Having said that, it talks about clearing trauma in 2 to 5 minutes, clearing negative emotions. I thought, okay, this is interesting. Well, here's the deal with it, bro. Remember, Francine Shapiro was working with John Grinder.
Yes.
And she
And that's
developed
how they came up with the
EMDR,
EMDR.
emotional deprocessing.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, you relayed the story something like she wanted to know how to stimulate both hemispheres and the idea. The idea of moving your eyes.
Yeah, moving your eyes. So, they get the whole story of looking at a squirrel, removing the trees, and all of a sudden, thinking about this horrible thing that all of a sudden it's gone. So the idea was with EMDR, the person's following your finger and they're thinking about the trauma. And as my friend Davey, the pediatrician, said, he was level 2 EMDR, and he didn't like the fact that it left some people in a zoned out
like
state.
Like a buzzy,
well,
weird
think about
feeling.
it. You want to feel zoned out. Don't even do anything with trauma. Just keep moving your eyes back and forth for 10 or 15 minutes, and you'll feel pretty crap. I guarantee it.
And I've seen a lot of people comment on that after EMDR, it worked great for them, but didn't leave them feeling so good for a while.
They felt spaced out.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now what comes along now was brain spotting.
Right.
So brain spotting came out of EMDR, and I believe it was a genuine improvement. I had the manual. I had the magic wand they gave you that opens up. And the idea is the person thinks about their traumatic event or their negative emotion of any kind, and you're moving this freaking wand across their field of vision. They have to watch the tip of it. Now, it sounds like EMDR up to this point, but they say that when you reach a certain point, Carl Smith calls it when he does his thing, which is clever, very clever.
Part of his kinetic shift.
Yeah, he says you look for the start of a transderivational search where the eyes twitch or something as you're passing through. So in brain spotting, the eyes do a bit of a blip. You take the one back and put it so the eyes are focused on the one in that position.
So then, if you would imagine like a metronome, for example, if the metronome arm suddenly during its normal periodic move went that would be you'd go at that spot and
that's the part of the brain you need to focus on.
Is that a technical term?
Yeah, it is. It's a term for So you put the thing there and then they process this, and amazingly it works. Well, free spotting now improved that. A woman, I think it was in the Philippines, I guess she was a therapist, 6 years ago, discovered it didn't matter what point you looked at. It was irrelevant. You didn't need the wand at all.
So pick any point.
It could be your finger. You put a dot in your finger. You get a point of a pen, something on a wall across the room. Doesn't matter if it's up, down, whatever. Of course, I want to try this. So here's how you do it. First of all, you get in touch with the feeling. Everybody can do this at home.
Okay, so let's all pretend we're doing it.
Okay.
We're going to pick a feeling we don't like.
Get in touch with something might be embarrassment from the past. And the beauty of this is you can use it. Steve Watts is right into this now. You can clear negative stuff in your life. Keep doing your homework, fixing yourself. If you've got 5 spare minutes waiting, somebody's telling a boring story, just do it.
So you pick a bad memory or emotion or something, or a choice point.
A bad emotion you have now, choice point. Could be a bad emotion, could be a time you felt embarrassed.
Explain quickly what is a choice point
A choice
for people
point is
listening.
when you could have made a better choice but didn't. So instead of talking to my wife and listening carefully, I freaked out on her and I've regretted it. That would be a choice point.
Right.
So you think of something. So let's say it's a negative emotion. Here's the one I used it on first, Chris. As I've gotten older, and I'm 70 now, so I can say that. I'm technically in my 8th decade. Scary. I can treat that. So as I've gotten older, I've noticed something's happened with my driving. I've not got as much acuity in gauging distance with cars, how fast they're approaching, especially at night. And that resulted in me hating crossing multiple lanes of traffic. And I started to get to the point, I think, maybe I can make a right turn instead. Like trying to work my life around not making lefts across traffic at night. And I thought, wait a minute, this is unacceptable. I'm not putting up with this. That's what I did it on. So I picked a point. It was just a thing across the room.
Okay. Thought
about the feeling I get. Okay, yeah, I feel nervous pulling out and this. Give it a suds. Think about it first. Get the suds out of 10. 10 being out of control, 0 being nothing.
Okay, so always get your suds first.
Before
Standard
you pick
issue.
a point.
Yeah.
So that it's not real bad. It's about a 4.
Okay.
So, but it's enough to cure. So I thought about that. Okay, pick a point, stare at it. Now I get into that feeling of how I feel pulling out in the traffic and all. And you can, even if it's something really traumatic, you can say to yourself, it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to feel this. And you stay with it and just stay with it. And then you notice as you're looking at the point, you keep trying to get all the feeling, it starts fading on you. And the suds start dropping.
So you are trying
and I just
to
kept
stay
at it until it's 0.
Right.
And then you break state. So what I moved around, looked around, I multiplied 15 times 9 in my head, and then came back. Okay, get that feeling of pulling out traffic. I'm happy to report, Chris, today I drove here at a phenomenal rate of speed on the 407. Oh, changingly, absolutely not a vestige of it remains. Not one speck. In fact, when I was at the theater last night, I was so infuriated with the guy in front of me that I told you about, and Heather asked if I'd threatened him.
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting there
you got to tell this story.
No, I don't.
This is great.
I actually turned to her and the people behind her and went to the back of his neck like this is always going to strangle. I should have done a Sestari choke, which would have been better. Nearly hit the mic. Anyway, this guy really pissed me off. A lot of people just filming, their phones all up in the air. I'm at Roy Thompson Hall, paying money to see this amazing concert, and all these dicks.
Guy's in front of you with his phone out.
Yeah.
What's he doing, Mike?
He's looking at his text messages. And so I just leaned forward and said, is the message for me? And, and then he put his phone away, right in his ear, like I got really close.
What a great
But I was fuming though. I still had adrenaline, and I thought, we took the break. I went out and said to Heather, I don't even like this concert because of just all these dicks with their phones and filming. They don't know that from the stage, you see it illuminating the face of the person in the audience.
Yeah.
And if you're behind them, you see it right in your field of vision.
Yeah, it's dark, and you've got this
I got back
light.
in. There was a little light in the display. Stared at it, got in touch with that feeling. Every vestige of it was gone in about 3 minutes. And I went, I'm enjoying the concert. I don't even care about these dicks anymore. So next thing I'm going to try it on how I feel about you. Did I?
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so check it out. It's a check afterwards. It works amazingly well, and it's a great tool to have. You're going to thank me.
Just as
I
are
am
thanking you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to it. Let's get
on. We'll do our 3 words,
Yeah,
and then
let's
we'll
do our
talk
words.
about. We want to talk about guided imagery and relate it to everyday life and hypnosis and self-hypnosis and just
I predict you're going to like these think tank words that we're actually from.
Goodness.
Sababuka checks, think tank, a bit of an itch here on the nose.
All right. And I can't remember if Ross is throwing these up on the screen when we're editing or not. But
onto the screen.
The first word is grabber. Yeah. Grabber. Like ER, not grab her.
No,
grab
definitely
her.
not. Second one?
Barleycorn.
Yeah.
And the third word is stroller, like a kid's stroller or something. All right, grabber. So one who grabs.
One who grabs. What is that? What is a grabber?
I think about something that grabs you, metaphorically,
like your
attention? Concept. Yeah, a concept or something that happens. It could be that. But I was thinking of when you make a new discovery, when you learn something. For example, when I first started learning hypnosis formally from you, and you introduced the idea of creating catalepsy first, that really grabbed me.
Okay.
And
that's good. And back
kind
at
of
you.
stuff, yeah.
To me, it's the way free spotting has just grabbed me as a means of doing self-work
go.
anywhere. It's getting difficult for me to find bad stuff now because I'm clearing everything. I'm becoming a fully integrated human being.
Oh, that's awesome.
Scary, isn't
okay.
it? What about barleycorn?
Barleycorn, what the heck is that?
Barleycorn, I think, is actually a booze distilling term. And there was a song done by Fairport Convention in the 1960s called John Barleycorn Must Die or something. And I think it's the term they use when they're distilling spirits.
Okay.
So what does that say to you other than the obvious, let's go get some whiskey?
Yeah, well, I think about it is the ingredient that goes into something. So what are the ingredients that make
the
up
mash bill with
amazing
whiskey, yeah.
hypnosis
Yeah.
or amazing communication skills?
All right.
I was
so it's the
having difficulty
recipe,
saying
the
that,
mash bill.
apparently.
Yeah, sorry. I'll do some free spotting. We'll clear
Yeah.
it. Now, what about stroller? Obviously, not the typical one of a baby stroller. That's obvious.
A stroller, well, I am thinking about that stroller, baby stroller, and it makes me think when somebody else needs help. And so you use a tool, a stroller is a tool to help a mom or a dad or whatever
Interesting.
push a kid who doesn't have the capability yet to walk, let's say, on their own 2 feet.
Okay, now this is funny, or their own 4 feet. The reason why I say that is
Yeah.
last summer, 2 years ago, Heather bought a cat stroller for Dwight here.
yeah.
And it's freaking hilarious. We never took him out in it other than put him on the front porch, and all he did was yell at us to come back in. So to me, it's let's put this together. Grab those fresh ideas. Get the recipe to make changes happen in your life, and then you can stroll through life as we do.
And by the way, there we go.
We're at
By
work
the
right
way,
now.
This will actually fit into guided imagery because you're often going to use ideas that you hear from the client
Brilliant.
to work them into the guided imagery.
Brilliant.
So let's move right into our content then.
Okay. Now, when we talk about guided imagery, people ask, they confuse revivification for guided imagery. And we find this very, very often when we teach our live classes in Toronto Architecture of Hypnosis. The next one is going to be in May 27 to 31st, 2024. Having said that, revivification, comes from the same root word as revive. You're bringing something back to life. So in this
Right.
case, you're taking a state, a memory, something that may have some positive impact for you. Like I can say when I was rolling on the mat with Hicks and Gracie that time, which I was, all of these things, you can go back to it, or you can pick a specific type of event. Like think of what it was like to be on a beach at one time. Now you're not taking them to a specific memory, but you are reviving all the feelings and the visual auditory of that particular event.
And you can do this yourself if you want to. You can just go back in and relive this memory. Or we do this as something that's
There's a
very
lot of
funny.
things you can do yourself.
There's just the ridiculousness of this is great.
She knows.
Yeah, you can. And it's also revivification happens to be the very first exercise that we teach our students in our live class training and in the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy.
Correct.
And the whole point of it is what?
Well, for the hypnotist / person doing the experiment, the exercise, to learn to calibrate that the other person is going into a trance state.
Right.
And to learn to use language vaguely enough or specific to things that must be in the experience to make the experience of the subject stronger and stronger rather than jarring them out of it, which requires the formation of a psychodynamic loop.
Exactly. It's actually good practice because if you were familiar with the idea of a yes set in sales where people say stuff that the other person internally goes, yeah. Oh, it's a nice day today.
Yeah.
Anything like that, right? Oh, is it your first time in this store?
Yes, it
it is.
is.
That kind of thing. And it's very similar with revivification where you're saying stuff using artfully vague language that must be true or possible for the other person's experience.
Right.
So if they're imagining running in the rain as you used to do, then you can feel your feet hitting the pavement. And you can be aware of the level of moisture in the environment. Whatever it is you're saying, you're practicing saying things that must be agreeable to the other person. And it's useful in a wide variety of situations outside of hypnosis.
And that's very well put. Again, it means that you're entering that psychodynamic loop where their behavior or lack thereof is causing a feedback system with you that then causes their behavior to change and creating the kind of feedback loop where you can build positive changes and positive states for the other person. All right, so guided imagery, what's the difference, buddy?
Well, so in revivification, what's happening is somebody's imagining a situation that they enjoy themselves in, that they've been in the past, right? Yeah, there you go. In guided imagery, the hypnotist is taking control and is actually instructing, is leading the full experience. But obviously, it would be incumbent upon the hypnotist to know something about the client that is in the chair beside them or on the other end of the Zoom conversation, so that you're not leading them through some experience that they find horrendous or unpleasant.
For sure, yeah.
Right? So you're taking something they know. Like, for example, they told you that they really loved going to the zoo when they were a child or something like that. You may work some animal scene into the guided imagery where maybe there's some sort of resource, like the lion is always considered the king of the jungle, for example. Right. If somebody needed more confidence and more assertive power,
but you don't want to go off the rails and say, and Dracula was king of the vampires.
Yeah, exactly.
And imagine you're in his castle now and you just found a room full of coffins and one's got your name on it.
In guided imagery, you're typically making up what's happening, or you're following some sort of process that you've already used many times in the past and just ad-libbing a little bit here and there.
Well put. Now, I said here, why does a hypnotist need both skills? And here's why. Revivification, taking them back to some specific state or close to a specific state. The skills of revivification enable us to access powerful states.
Yes.
So say it was just a really wonderful, vacation. We can let the person go back and re-experience that and get the benefit of it. But guided imagery enables us to direct the action and make powerful changes for the client.
Bingo.
That's it. So it said to revivify. Revivification is to awaken and revive an experience or type of experience. You want to clarify that? It's not, he says, my vacation. You're not going to say, and you look back at the 4-star, whatever hotel on the beach in Montego Bay. Because that's where you went, maybe.
Yeah,
or Wild Orchid. Exactly. We both went at different times. Yeah.
Yes.
But you're not going to say, okay, you're at Wild Orchid because the guy went to Jamaica. You presume he was there, and he's going, I wasn't there. I stayed in a bed and breakfast, right?
You're generally not having somebody revivify a specific moment. It's
Correct.
A general experience. The experience of swimming, the experience of wrestling with somebody if you were training in wrestling and that was what you wanted to do, or the experience of sitting in a cozy chair reading a book.
Very good.
That kind of thing.
Now, revivifies to awaken something, but guided imagery can be anything. You can put someone through not experiences they've been through. That wouldn't be what you'd aim for, but a hypothetical experience that could actually change their life for the better. You can put them in imaginary worlds. You can put them in a deeply symbolic experience that is resonating with their unconscious mind.
Okay, so you have here on the notes, Students often ask, when would I use revivification with a client? This is a really important question because revivification we teach in our live training on the very first day and the very first morning, and in our online academy. I think we moved it now with version 2 of the MMHA. It's way better and newer.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's in lesson 2 or something now. But anyway, we want to give you some foundational concepts in history first. But the exercises that you do, once you learn how to issue pacing statements that represent truth for the other person, then you can revivify a past experience. And we always explain it as a practice exercise.
Yeah.
Not something you would ever really do with a client.
No,
but
you could use it to access a resourceful memory. But that's about it.
You sure could, especially if you're a brand new hypnosis student and you're practicing with somebody and they revivify a nice experience. You might use that to then offer some direct suggestion before you bring them back.
Brilliant.
To solidify the ability to take that awesome resource and apply it to another area of your life or something like that.
Freaking amazing. And it is a training exercise. So if you're doing revivification, working with another person, you're tuning up your calibration skills, your ability to notice what signals they're sending back to you and when things change. You're using VAK, so visual, auditory, kinesthetic, the primary representational systems, and you learn to feed all three of these into the experience, and perhaps the subgroups of olfactory and gustatory if they're in a restaurant or something, but in their revivified experience. As you know, my 70th birthday, my wife took me to a Michelin-starred Japanese restaurant, and it was, I won't even tell you how much it was. It was a lot. But the experience, if I go back, because it was so clear, I can access all the VAK in that and make it stronger. So when we're revivifying a specific experience or type of experience for someone by bringing in visual, auditory, kinesthetic, we make it very, very vivid for them as well. And this all leads to, for the hypnotist or therapist, flexibility of behavior. Why do we want flexibility, Chris?
Well, you need flexibility of behavior because if you don't have flexibility of behavior, you're basically stuck reading scripts or following paint by numbers recipes.
Oh.
There's an interesting metaphor. Timothy and I were working on some copy.
Timothy September, folks.
Yeah, he's our head of coaching at Mike Mandel Hypnosis, co-founder of Picthos.com as well to run your business.
And a heck
which is
of a
awesome.
nice guy, too.
Yeah, and we were talking about, what the heck was I just talking about?
No idea. I'm at an age where I can't follow the thread.
It's just completely slipped my mind.
What else have you just forgotten?
Everything. Who are you? Who are you? And how did I get here? We were talking about...
The theremin sound is great.
Oh my goodness, it's just completely vanished.
No, we were going back to, let's back up. Flexibility of behavior. There's your trigger.
Oh, right. Paint by numbers and scripts and all that nonsense. And we were talking about how
the thread.
you...
Have you lost it again?
Imagine, we've said this metaphor before, imagine if you were a comedian and all you know how to do is pull out a book and read jokes at people. Well, that's not very interactive. There's no psychodynamic loop, really, right? If you're theoretically just reading, or in actuality, just reading what's on the page in front of you, you're not responding to the... So there's no psychodynamic loop happening.
If there is, it's only one of irritation coming from the other side.
Fun conversations happen because there's interaction. You don't plan the conversation in advance. It evolves organically.
Yeah, my fourth sentence
and you have
will
a
be
good
this.
time.
Yeah.
Exactly. And similarly, this is
Okay, you've done a lot of waiting around.
You're a big fan of, who's that chef guy that you like so
Gordon
much?
Ramsay.
Gordon
I like
Ramsay.
him a lot.
So would you consider yourself a chef if you could open a box of Aunt Jemima pancake mix, pour out the cup of pancake mix and the 1 cup of water and put them in the bowl together and whisk them together and put them in a frying pan and make pancakes?
Now, that's interesting. The answer is no.
I'd
say maybe a mediocre cook. I thought you were going to ask me if I could beat him in the octagon. I could.
Point
being, he was
being,
a soccer player and he's Scottish.
If all you can do hypnotically equivalent is follow some instructions, do this, then do this, then do this, and your calibration instructions are like, wait until the pancakes have turned a golden brown. That's the equivalent of, wait until you think the client looks like they're ready to close their eyes. And then you say this, and then you say this, and then you do this, and then you ask the client to do the following. Like, that is not flexibility.
No, definitely. What's interesting, really interesting about what you said was you fired off something in my mind I have not thought of for years. And you said, wait until the pancakes. And the way you said wait until, even without the Manchester accent my mom had, it fired the thing from my childhood where I remember I was stealing little bits of money, a quarter here and 10 cents there, and using it to pay off Bob Daly and Neil Chapman, who got protection money out of me. So such a little kid. I couldn't tell my parents. I was scared to death of these guys. And my mom knew the money was missing. And she said, wait until your dad comes home. Yeah. Wait until your dad. And I just, whoa.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's interesting. Let's revivify that, but I'm not going to.
This is why we want flexibility. We want flexibility.
Absolutely.
Because that's when you have actual hypnosis skills.
How would you fight Gordon Ramsay in the octagon? Just quickly.
Tiger claw, axe hand,
so you blind him
control.
first.
Yeah, for sure.
I like him though. I mean, I could beat him, but I wouldn't. It's probably sweep his legs.
Right.
Like you a lot, Gordon. This isn't a challenge, but I'm here if you think it is. Now look, let's go with what can be done with guided imagery. Remember our anti-stress CD that I came up with? Like what are you saying? Almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, this is a really good point. So obviously, revivification would be something you'd have to do with an actual client or a practice partner, and you can do that in the practice rooms if you're an MMHA member, because they're telling you, oh, this is the thing that I want to revivify. And your challenge is, all right, how do I say stuff that's artfully vague that must be true or possible for that person's imagined experience that isn't mine? Because I don't know it. I'm saying stuff vague enough that it must be true. All right, cool.
Right.
Guided imagery, I'm the boss. I'm controlling the experience. And so if I wanted to produce an audio recording, like a hypnosis back in the day, a CD or a cassette tape or an 8-track or vinyl, or nowadays, you would just MP3 or video, whatever you want to do. Yeah. You need to script it out ahead of time, assuming you're going, that's the only time, not one of the only times when we think scripts make sense, or if you're planning out something that involves, say, guided imagery, you're writing the entire journey like a script of a movie, and you're just talking it into the microphone.
Well, also, and the fact with that, they're going through an experience by bringing in the sound effects and all that. Like we did. I remember saying to Willard, who was my engineer at that time, and with the ship sitting at the shore, and I said, you hear the mast creaking. I said, I want to hear the sound of cargo moving around in the hold. He said, we can do that. And he did. And it added to the just the depth of the experience. You bring in
Definitely.
the emotions more. And you'll remember in that stress recording, we did a bit of parts integration too. All the people coming from town when the bell rings, and they all look sort of like you, like they're your relatives, and they're all smiling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's so much.
Now,
in
what
there.
about, you want to go on steroids with this, you got to say Journey to the Castle in Cydonia. Those
and
are
you know what?
guided imagery.
We'll put a link in here for you guys to download Journey to the Castle for free. Believe it's just MikeMandelHypnosis.com/castle for the audio listeners, which I think most people are audio listening to the podcast. So MikeMandelHypnosis.com/castle, and you can download it. So it's epic.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
you took like a 25-year hiatus, I think, from recording any of these things. And then people kept saying, I want to go to the castle.
I was killed, Davey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. He phoned me. I was in Whistler, BC doing a keynote.
Yeah.
I come out my phone's message and he said, Mike, why can't I go to the castle? I want to go to the castle.
Yeah,
Because
and
the
over the
castle kept
years-
showing up in the other.
Over
so
the
we built
years,
it.
people kept asking, what's up that path? What's in the castle? What's in the
think I
castle?
know.
And so we decided,
It's
it was
also a
funny,
place
when I
you want
asked
to
you to
go.
do this,
Yeah.
I imagined that you were going to create a track with that castle as, you know, the same
Yeah.
3 paths, but this
Not a
time
chance,
we're
bucko.
and you just changed it completely, like Jack the Complete Changer. And it was great. So this is a really cool journey because it has kind of elements of Inception in it. I'm not going to give too much
No,
away.
but that's where the Inception induction came from. And
Yeah.
you named it. And I thought,
Yeah.
it was I created it, you named it. It's brilliant. Teamwork, buddy. So, and Cydonia, of course, then has specific purposes as well. And
Yes.
I've written Randlesham, the third
We're
one.
gonna
We
record
have-
that
We will record it. We've
early
been saying it for a year.
2024.
It's going to be done. And, okay, let's talk about the one I like best of all, which any therapist can use, any hypnotist can use, the New You protocol that
Yes.
you and I created together.
We created this because, well, we've often done this, teaching examples. In fact, when it comes to conversational hypnosis, you invented the NUVI method, nominalization, unspecified verb, integration. We used to call it induction, but it's now integration.
Yeah.
And you invented that as a training exercise so that people could learn how to generate never-ending sentences,
and
which are
Ericksonian patterns. Yeah.
really clever. I think of the never-ending sentence like the freight train with the never-ending
Couplings.
cars or
Yeah.
couplings and box cars or whatever, and you can just put stuff in them. Well, what do? Hypnotic language patterns, seeding of suggestions, metaphorical references, whatever you want to
Right,
do,
right.
you can do within this never-ending freight train. And I would say similarly, the New You protocol was something that I approached you with and said, I think we need to come up with an idea for how to teach people to generate guided imagery, because a lot of the times this would come up. Well, what's guided imagery? What's metaphor? What's a story versus being in the script and
Right.
being guided through the experience rather than just passively listening to a story and getting some metaphorical meaning and going, I'm going to change my life. Right.
Getting an aha.
And that
Yeah,
can
yeah,
happen.
yeah, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But this is really fun. So guided imagery. And we created the New Year protocol, and it's in the academy now. It's been there for a while.
People
It's
are using
fantastic.
it. The thing is, guys, there's two kinds of change. There's remedial change where we're endeavoring to fix something that's wrong. And as Chris has pointed out, there's elements of both in both. But the other one is generative change, where someone does something well already, maybe sports,
Yeah.
maybe playing chess, maybe speaking to audiences, and we give them the power to do it even better. Now, in all generative change, there will be some element of remedial change insofar as we'll be remedying something from the past most of the time, I would think, at least getting in a better state. And in all remedial change, we then want to give them something to put into place of the problem
Right.
so they're doing better. So they're sort of, chicken and
Yeah.
dog. I nearly said egg, but egg would have been correct.
That would
But-
have worked.
And that's it. So the New You protocol is terrific for generative change. Now,
Let's explain how it works.
yeah, but
so
let's
that-
just say
yeah.
if we're doing remedial work, the first thing we get is the SUDs, the subjective units of distress. How bad can you feel about that phobia right now if you think about it? Not how bad was it when it happened. Right now.
In
well,
the
there
moment.
isn't a snake here. I'll pretend there's one in my hands coming. I can make it feel a 9 out of 10. So we get the SUDs out of 10. But with New You protocol, because it is so stellar, if I can say so myself, even though we are the creators, you can use it for generative change. You don't need SUDs.
Yeah, and if you
Just do
were, it would be how good
How
are
well
you?
can you do it?
Yeah, how well can you do this? How
Language.
good are you at this right now?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
wouldn't say how well are you at this?
No,
now?
how well can you do it
How
now?
great are you at this now? How good are you? How well do you do it now?
How ill are you now?
and they give you a number. They go, well, like I'm a 4. What do you want to be? I want to be a freaking 9. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
I'm not an Olympic athlete, so I'm not going to be a 10. But
How they say, I want to be a 9, you say, lazy.
yeah, lazy. That's right.
Just under your breath. But that's great.
Yeah.
So we came up with this idea.
All right,
And
so let's walk people through
start
it.
with the point. So we start with, what is it you wish to improve? So this is generative change. Right
Now,
away.
could somebody who doesn't have any hypnosis background still run this protocol?
I think so.
I would
Clearly,
imagine you
hypnosis. We don't think hypnosis is something that hypnotists do. We think hypnosis, honestly, we believe it's a life skill.
It is
because
something
you're
everyone's
going in
doing.
and out of trance all the time. Anyway,
So let's imagine that a listener here goes, I would like to experiment with this on somebody. Okay, so you don't need
I'd like
to know any
experiment on
hypnosis
somebody.
at
That's what
all.
he's saying, Dr. Frankenstein here.
You could have a person simply stare at a spot,
Yeah.
breathe in, close their eyes, exhale, go deeper.
And
Do that
as
a
Richard
couple
Bandler
more
would
times.
say, pretend they're in trance.
Yeah, and then just have the person, just instruct the person, okay, do this, breathing, open eyes, close eyes 3 times, pretend you're in a trance.
Yep.
Now, before they do that, of course, we want to elicit a bit of information, which is what do you wish to improve, right?
Yep.
And you want to elicit their ideal environment. And all you're doing, and this kind of comes from the revivification, it's where is some place that you just feel awesome when you're there?
right here.
And they tell you, podcast studio,
Yeah.
on a beach.
Colonel Bastards.
A lot of people will say, like sitting on a beach in the
Glenfiddich
sun,
Distillery.
or hanging out with my friends, or
yeah.
when I'm on the volleyball court, or whatever. So you just want people to give you an environment where they feel particularly empowered.
Yes.
So that is them feeding you a bit of information that you're going to now design into the guided imagery.
And that's going to be near the end. Now,
Right.
I like to, the way I run it now, and we've done it several times, I like to begin on a beach, just as a general thing, presuming the person doesn't have a, cangrejo phobia or something.
So you know what it is they want to improve or fix.
Yep.
You know where their empowering
Their
environment
ideal
is,
environment.
and you park that aside for now. You put them in a quick trance, and you start the journey where they started, let's say, on a beach.
Sure, and
All
you're
right,
walking
what
along the
happens
beach
now?
and you're enjoying the sound. Perhaps the waves are lapping, and we're saying things that have to be or could be in the experience.
Right.
And as they walk along, they feel better and stronger, and they wander off the beach into some sort of path. And I like it to go off the dunes and into a forest. Why? Because the forest is a symbol,
Of the
universal of the
unconscious
unconscious mind.
mind.
Hansel and
The
Gretel get lost in
mystery
the
and the-
woods. It's
Yeah.
all of these things, the breadcrumbs. So they go on the dune, up into the dunes, into the forest, and something happens. They're walking through the forest, and I'd have the sound of the birds and how
Yeah.
the air smells fresh. But they're on a clear path, but it's blocked.
They reach some sort of block, which
obstruction.
metaphorically represents a problem in their
Now, would
life.
you point that out to them?
No,
Ah,
you would,
no, you would
never,
not.
never point it out
You
to
would
them.
not.
You would not say, and that tree blocking the pathway represents the blockage you have to interacting with other people in a social context. No, don't do that.
Do not. So there's something. It could be a tree across the path. It could be that I've used
Barbed
almost
wire,
a chasm, so they
yeah.
have, it's further than they can jump, maybe 10 feet across. Barbed wire.
It could be anything. It doesn't have to be a forest and a path. It can be whatever you want it to be. This is just an
Sure,
example.
but provided
Yeah.
it is impassable.
Yes.
And you have them examining and looking around, then you provide the solution.
that
might
you
see-
frame as them coming up
Yes,
with.
then
yeah.
you notice a small brass key on the ground, and you pick it up and see that there's a padlock that it fits, and you unlock it, and all of a sudden the door slides back.
And you
This
can
kind of
slide
thing.
in some interesting comments here, and it's always interesting to notice that sometimes keys are where you didn't think they were, or so. I made that up. That's really a bad
No,
one.
but it's good. But when it's a door, like a gate, a heavy metal gate, I like them to attempt to get through, and you're pushing, and you pull on it with all your strength. You can't see a lock, and then you get an idea and push it sideways, and it slides sideways perfectly and effortlessly, and then
Yeah.
now they're through. So they've overcome the problem. They've overcome the blockage. Excuse me, we'll edit that out.
Implication for them unconsciously at that point is, gee, maybe I've been attacking this problem from the wrong direction, right?
He's right, damn him.
But you don't say it.
No, you don't say it. That's the implication. So now they get past the blockage and they continue along the path
And now they get to
and they find a resource.
some sort of resource. So in your mind, you're having to construct this as you go. You're very infrequently going to be planning the whole thing out.
Right.
You're going to make it up as you go. and
Or you
trust
can
your
have
gut.
some generic ones you can plug in with pretty well any situation.
So they're going to run into some sort of situation on the path, which represents a resource. Again, metaphorically represents something they can use. It could
Why?
Could be what?
Because why
Yeah.
do we put it there? They've just gotten a victory. They've just got past the blockage. Now we ramp up their victory by giving them tools for the job.
Yeah.
As Churchill said, give us the tools and we'll finish the job. I didn't
you
sound
go.
like Churchill, but I just sort of wanted to say that. Now, having said that, having done the Winston Churchill, lost my thread. Here's what it is. So then they find a resource. It could be, a bottle of magical liquid. It could be a magic wand. It could be a sword. It could be a wallet full of money. It could be a book.
It could be a backpack with
Anything,
tools in it.
yes, anything you can think of. It could be a Scott.
But it's gonna
it
be
could actually be a
something-
Scott.
It's going to be something that you believe will resonate with them.
You didn't ask me what a Scott
A
is.
Scott?
Yeah. It's the name of the tank that firefighters carry.
I had
so they
no.
can
I
breathe.
thought you were talking about a
I think
Scottish
it's like
person.
self-contained
Yeah.
oxygen tank or some damn thing. But
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so they've got this resource. Right away, they either take it with them if it's a medallion like the
Mm-hmm.
one I'm wearing or whatever. The resource is there for them now.
And they continue.
And they continue. And then they're
They
moving towards the
end up-
solution.
That's it. So this is where they now approach this empowering environment.
Right.
But it's not just any empowering environment. What's in the empowering environment, Mike?
Stuff, first of all, it's their empowering environment they chose in the beginning, and they see a person there, but it's them.
So it's
because
a-
it's all about you.
It's about you.
It's all
Now,
about you.
The brilliance here is this introduces the idea of dissociation. So
Yes.
dissociation is when you are seeing a scene and you're in that scene, let's say. Whereas association is imagine the camera's in my skull.
And you're looking out of your own
And I'm looking
skin.
out of my own eyes.
Out of your own skin, you're in your own
This
shoes.
is associated. That
Dissociate.
seeing,
Yeah.
that's dissociated.
Dissociated. Think of it. Every time you look at yourself in a mirror, the image in the mirror is dissociated. The one you're in is associated.
And we
every
like
photograph
to-
of you is
yeah.
dissociated. And we do this because we can make changes in the dissociated state
It's
and
easier.
then put it in. Yeah.
It's seemingly easier to have
easier.
stuff happening or stuff changing
Yeah.
out there and then imagining the integration. So they see the other them
Yes.
in the empowering environment doing the thing that they want to do
But
well.
doing it really
and doing
well.
it really well. And they are smiling and
they're
they're
happy
confident.
and-
This is where you hammer on the well, you're not really doing direct suggestion at this point. You're directly suggesting how the other person is behaving.
And you're
feeding very
spelling
clear.
out, and you're spelling out the environment, whatever it is. The person is doing the thing perfectly well, and you're so amazed to see this. And then they notice each other.
That
So-
other person notices you, spins around, and
you make eye contact because who's it about, Chris?
It's about you. That's
It's all
why it's
about
called the
you.
new you.
So now
Yeah.
the two of them, you and the other you, make eye contact, and the other one smiles, and often the client will smile at this point too.
yes.
Now we have to integrate the change. So how do they do it?
Well, we simply instruct them. This is where we're beginning our direct suggestion now, that you can now have that other you approach you and reach out with your, we always say, physical hands and take that other you inside of the real you that's
And
here and
integrate
now.
all those wonderful changes and how amazing you feel because now you layer on the direct
suggestion
Yeah.
in hypnosis, DSIH, always. And we really hammered this home in version 2 of the Academy.
Correct.
Always be using direct suggestion
Cement
in
the
hypnosis.
changes in place, yeah.
Always give ego strengthening suggestions, integration, future pacing with the direct suggestions. From now on, you are a strong person. You are a confident speaker. Whatever it is that they wanted, you're crafting direct suggestions, and then you're simply having them come back to now and feel amazing.
Brilliant. Now let me ask you a question at this point, Chris. How are we doing for time?
I think we should wrap this one up, actually.
Okay, so we're not going to do
Yeah.
any commercials or anything on this. We'll save it. But let's just let's go through this quickly. Guided imagery is relatively easy to create. We've just given you a format, a template with the new you protocol. You, it's about you. You don't say that to your client, it's creepy. You can use VAK, visual auditory kinesthetic, in your descriptions to flesh it out, make it clearer, make it more vibrant for them. You're building clear submodalities they can go back to. Oh, do I have to review it in my mind after I've done? No, it's a one-time thing. It integrates the changes, externally making the shifts, and the guided imagery is a wonderful way to deal with blockages in their life because it's a generic blockage and it makes it easier for them to get past blockages because it gives them hope. They know that, oh, I got through this. I can get, and it generalizes as though it's real, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. So here's what I'll just chime in with as well. If you want a great example of this, get Journey to the Castle. I've already given the link, so I won't repeat it. Although I will, because it's MikeMandel, hypnosis.com/castle. I was just doing that to see if you'd interrupt the URL. But no, you didn't. You're very good.
Not a chance.
The other thing that you might want to do is see this in action, the New Year protocol. The new you.
said New Year. You said
the
New Year protocol.
The New Year protocol. The new you protocol in action. We only added about 5 separate demonstrations of you doing this on our actual students.
It works me too hard.
As part of Foundations Live. Anyway, the demos are all there inside of the Mike Mandel I just said this weird. The Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. We've got a full lesson on guided imagery and about 5 demonstrations of the New You protocol and the full training on the New You protocol. So if you want to check it out, just go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com, sign up for the Academy, and check it out. It's that simple.
Brilliant, Chris.
All
Brilliant.
right.
It took us forever to redo everything. So always make sure you integrate the changes. You can, when you do these modules, and yourself, you learn these things so you can have it as a therapeutic module. You can drop into pretty well any situation. What if you were to use this in the new year? We're getting close to the new year. If you're a therapist, if you're a hypnotist, why don't you do what our great friend Igor Ledochovsky, brilliant hypnotist and trainer, does? He gives people hypnotic gifts.
Yes.
So friends of yours, family, you say, here's a gift for you. Put them in a trance, say, what do you want to change? What do you improve? To ask that first, do the New You protocol on them for the new year.
And then wake them up.
You gave me that idea because
say
you said
Merry
New Year.
Christmas. I
And
know.
thought it maps across.
I was thinking it is not the New Year protocol, and it is also not the New to You protocol.
You said new
It
to
is
you?
the
Yeah, the new to you.
It's the New You protocol. It is not the New to You protocol. There you go.
That's
that would be an entirely different thing.
Now let's go to our empowering question.
All right.
And nail this pecker down.
Let's do it. Where is the empowering question? Oh, my goodness. Here we go.
There we are.
Ask yourself, which components and resources come to mind immediately that will enable you to make a flawless guided imagery recording? And what will you do to map it out and test it on someone else?
Brilliant. Brilliant. And I have a quick Metafive, which is one better than a metaphor. You know, Chris, that being a mentalist for many, many years, doing mentalism since probably 1974 I started, and then performing full-time in 75. One of those key moments that was just stellar happened to me when I was just beginning and performing. My girlfriend at the time, Sandy, I was over at her house, and she had some friends over, and Sandy was saying, oh, you know, Mike's on stage now, and he's doing this stuff. And, oh, do you have a deck of cards? He'll show you something. I think the deck they had was so crap, it was like cereal cardboard. I couldn't use it. And I said, no. And the girl said, well, I'm just thinking of a card. What is it? And just for no reason, I said, 6 of diamonds. The girl practically went into shock. Just one chance in 52. I blurted out 6 of diamonds, and everybody was immensely impressed. Sometimes it just works.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Brain Software Podcast. This has been episode 244, emanating from Toronto, Canada. Go ahead and check out MikeMandelHypnosis.com. You can sign up for the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. Learn all about guided imagery, revivification, ego states, all kinds of amazing stuff. It's the full Monty, baby. Yeah, you're going to love it.
Back to nudity. It's always
we just love having fun. So
who doesn't?
please
I mean, really,
join
who
us
says to you,
and
I
have fun. Make your life awesome.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't involve us, but it should. Thanks again. and good night.